Right. In first place, I wanna apologize. I want to apologize to you guys if you follow the football channel or have followed the football channel in the past because I stopped making videos months ago, and it was simply because I started pursuing other interests. Frankly, philosophy. I started a philosophy channel. I started a movie channel, and it was just too much to keep up with the football every day or every week even. So I apologize for that. And this is the first video that I'm going to do in months for the football channel. And I want to talk about the Super League. In fact, this is such big news. We heard just yesterday, yeah, last night, that they're going to create a football league. They're going to create an European, pan-European Super League with all of the best teams, or presumably all of the best teams in the continent. We already have 12 top teams confirmed, all the top six in England, the big six clubs in England: Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea, and Arsenal, plus the three biggest Spanish clubs: Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid. And then Inter, Milan, and Juventus in Italy. So really already 12 of the top 15 clubs in the world, let's say. Really the only ones, the only big ones missing at this point are Bayern Munich and PSG, and then you can argue maybe a Dortmund, maybe an Ajax, Lyon, maybe, but really the only truly big sharks that are missing at this point are Bayern Munich and PSG. All the other ones are in this league, and it's a breakaway league. Essentially, they're going to create their own Champions League, so to speak. And a lot of people have been very upset. A lot of people have come out and criticized this harshly. I mean, with extremely harsh language, actually. I don't think I've seen this kind of language from football commentators like Gary Neville, former players as well, like Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, live on TV, really attacking football managers, not football managers, but football directors, or football presidents, the presidents of these football clubs, the owners, in using the kind of language that really you don't usually see. Basically accusing them of betraying the game, betraying the fans, of being essentially foreigners that have bought the clubs and sold them out, basically. The president of the UEFA and the president of FIFA have been extremely aggressive. Especially the president of UEFA has accused the president of Manchester United, the president of Juventus, of being terrible people. Really, the language used, he compared them to criminals. I mean, the language used has been something that I wasn't even I was expecting a strong reaction, but I wasn't expecting quite that reaction, quite that level of aggressiveness, hostility. In any case, a lot of people, the majority of people that have come out to talk about this, have been very critical, have been attacking this league. So I'm gonna talk. I actually don't see it as a bad thing. I think that this is overdue, really, or at least it is due. This is the 21st century. We're entering the third decade of the 21st century now, and we are dealing with a crisis of really unprecedented proportions in European football and world football. And this is sort of, I think that's I'm going to spend 10, 20 minutes talking about some of the reasons why I think this is actually a good idea. And I think it's someone needs to say this. Obviously, not probably not a lot of people are going to watch this video, but I still want to make this video, and because I do think we need to think about both perspectives and actually have a conversation to figure out if this is good for us, the fans as well as the game in general and the clubs in general. Now, right now, there's a big football financial crisis. I mean, I just saw an interview with the president of Real Madrid, who has come out and explained on Spanish television why they have decided to do this. And look, they are in a big mess, a big financial mess. They've lost in the last two seasons. The last two seasons combined, they've lost about 400 million euros. 400 million euros that they didn't get, that they should have gotten because of the coronavirus. I mean, look, clubs are surviving now on a strict diet, so to speak. They're really not getting all the income they would ordinarily get, and they're still having to pay for all the expenses pretty much. So that creates big financial problems. These clubs are really they're finding themselves in a terrible financial crisis. I mean, they've lost all revenue except pretty much for the television revenue at this point. They don't even have the core revenue, which is the match day revenue. That's completely gone. And they still have to pay for the salaries. They still have to pay for pretty much everything that they would otherwise have to pay for. So this has created, and we're not thinking about it because, yeah, look, we're still getting to see the matches. Yeah, it's not the same. We can't go to the stadium. It's not quite the same atmosphere seeing these games without the fans in the stadium. They make the atmosphere. We fans, when we go to the stadium, we create the great atmosphere. But look, the clubs are really suffering. I mean, it's a big problem. And as the president of Real Madrid pointed out, this is going to have a repercussion. This is going to have serious repercussions for these clubs. These clubs are maybe not now, but in the next 2, 3, 4 years, there's going to be a snowball effect. I mean, they're going to have to make up for these deficits, strong, huge financial deficits somehow. And essentially, one way, the most logical way to come up with the money to cover those deficits is to find a model where they can make more money. So this league is really a great solution for that, because they are going to make a lot more money with the league. So it really is a matter, that's the first thing that I want to say. It really is a matter of necessity. They really need to come up with the money somehow, and this new model, I think, is going to allow them to have a lot more longevity, and they're going to be able to take care of the big financial problem that they find themselves in. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the national leagues will continue to exist. A lot of the people that have come out to criticize this are talking about like the end of football and how these clubs are just going to break away from everything and they're going to leave everything else to die. All the small clubs, the small fans, they're talking about how the great thing about football is that these small clubs, they can still go up in the ladder, and you can dream of creating a great Cinderella story, and that's really the soul of the game. Do what Leicester did, for example, and win the Premier League, coming from small humble beginnings, if you will, so to speak. But this is really not truly the case. This is not going to change. The national leagues are going to continue to exist. In fact, the clubs have been very clear that they are still going to be participants in the national competitions. The national competitions are still going to be the bread and butter of these clubs. They're going to play in the weekends normally. There's going to be no change there. The only thing that's going to change is that during the week, midweek, they're going to be playing each other. They're going to be playing the best clubs in the world, just like the Champions League does now, except more regularly. Instead of having six matches in the group stage and plus 6 matches or something like that in knockout stages, 6 or 8 matches. The top clubs will play, I think they're thinking about something like 20 matches per season to start with, or something like that, 20 something matches per season. So it's really not going to be a huge difference. It's really just going to be like now, the Champions League, except it's going to be a lot more regular, a lot more matches. And that's the thing I want to talk about next. This is actually, I believe, and we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see how this model evolves. There are a lot of things that we don't know now. So this can go in a number of different ways. But I think the model of a proper league with a lot of matches between a lot of top clubs is, in theory, at least, a better model for top class pan-European competition. Look, we're going to have more top matches between the best teams. We're going to have more elite teams. Look, there are a lot of great teams that are missing out on the Champions League. Liverpool is probably not going to play in the Champions League next year. Arsenal is not certainly not going to play in the Champions League next year. Tottenham, almost certainly, they're going to miss out as well. Chelsea, probably going to miss out as well, or there's a good chance. Juventus might miss out on the Champions League next year. They might not play in the Champions League next year because they're 4th in the Serie A right now, and they might drop to 5th or 6th. Dortmund is probably not going to play in the Champions League next year. The Champions League model is a great model because it's a competitive model, but there is a problem in terms of spectacle, in terms of seeing the best teams in the world play, because a lot of these great top elite super clubs from England and other countries, Italy, Spain, Germany, they sometimes they miss out. They have no certainty that they're going to play every year. In fact, they don't play in the Champions League every year. Even a club like, as big as Manchester United, or Liverpool, they miss out every once in a while. In fact, there are only 4 spots for top English clubs that go to the Premier League, and there are essentially 6 super clubs in England at the moment. So for sure, 2 of those super 6 clubs are going to miss out on the Champions League. And that's obviously not good for business, and it's not good for football, really. And instead of those clubs, what do we get in the Champions League? We get a Shakhtar Donetsk, or worse, we get a Ferencváros. No disrespect, or Midtjylland, no disrespect to those clubs. Look, they deserve to be there under the current rules. They're top clubs in their respective nations. But they're just not a Tottenham. They're not a Manchester United. Certainly, they're not a Juventus. It's just not the same thing. And the Champions League is actually, and this is what a lot of people are pointing out. A lot of, like, for example, the president of the Real Madrid, but a lot of people, anybody that actually follows football on a regular basis. The Champions League is not that exciting until the last 16. The group stages are, it's still interesting because there are some good games here and there, but really look at this year. Except really for one group or a couple groups, like all the favorites passed, went on to play the last 16, if not in every group. I think the only big team really that missed out on the last 16 was Manchester United, maybe Inter Milan, if you want to go, if you want to consider them to be a big team at the moment. So, a couple of big teams missed out because they were in particularly complicated groups. Most groups are kind of a bore, and you already know from the beginning who's going to go through and who's not going to go through. It's certainly going to be very different under a new format, I believe. Now, that's another thing. Also, I gotta say, the closed model. A lot of people are demonizing this closed model, saying it's an American thing. It's a terrible thing for football. It goes against everything that football stands for. The competition, the small club can become the champion, and all that. Look, at the end of the day, football is not married to this model of promotion and relegation. It really isn't. I mean, it's a good model. Don't get me wrong, I like it. But I also like the NFL. I also like the NBA. I also like the NHL. I also like the MLB. I also like the Formula One, which is also a closed league. Those are all great leagues. And in fact, 4 of the 5 richest top leagues in the world, sports leagues in the world, are closed leagues. 4 of the 5. The only one that is not is the Premier League. No, I think that shows, and those are the top leagues in those sports. Nobody complains about those leagues, really. Nobody says, well, because those are closed leagues, they're not competitive. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like when you look at the NFL, for example, closed league, 32 teams. It's a very competitive league. A lot of those teams have a really good chance, even if they're from like a small town like the Green Bay Packers. Look at the top European leagues at the moment. They are anything but competitive. Bayern has dominated the Bundesliga for 10 years now, like for really a lot more than 10 years. But in the last 10 years, they've won almost every single year. I think this year is going to be their 9th consecutive win in Germany. Juventus had won the previous 9 years. They've had a terrible season this season with Pirlo, but I mean they're probably going to win it next year and beyond. PSG might not win this year because they're doing terribly in the French league, but they'll probably win 8-9 times out of 10. So really, you have 3 leagues that almost certainly you're gonna get the big team, Juventus in Italy, Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga, and PSG in the Liga. It's almost a foregone conclusion. It's a big surprise. In fact, look, Juventus not winning the Serie A this year is a huge surprise. If PSG doesn't win the French league this year, it's a huge surprise. In Spain, any year that you don't have Real Madrid or Barcelona win the league, that's a huge surprise. I mean, really, the only competitive league truly at this point is the Premier League out of the top 5 in Europe. In Portugal, you have 3 teams that can win the league. Usually 2 of those 3 teams win, one or the other. In the Netherlands, essentially the same thing, 3 teams, but it's usually really Ajax or PSV. European national leagues are not that competitive. That's the truth of it. There's 1 team that dominates, or 2 teams at times, or 3 at most, and that's about it. We are talking about a league, a true league that people are going to follow, that is going to be truly competitive in spite of, and we're still going to get it's a little bit unclear what it's going to look like, but it seems that it's going to be a mixed model. There are going to be certain clubs that are going to be staples, the biggest clubs, the big institutions, and then you're going to have some spots that are going to the participants are going to change every year. So I think it's actually it's a good idea. It's a good idea, and essentially, this is the only way. If association football is going to have the biggest league in the world, I think the biggest sport in the world, which is football, which is association football, should have the biggest league in the world. Right now, it is not. Right now, the NFL is by far the biggest, the richest league in the world, and the Champions League is almost not in the top 10. I don't know if it makes it into the top 10. It's simply not a very good model if you're going to make a lot of money, and if it's good. Don't get me wrong, because we get all the best European teams in the Champions League, but it could be a lot better. You know, most of the time in the Champions League, we get a Real Madrid Shakhtar when we really want a Real Madrid Bayern Munich. So I think that's something to think about. Now, another thing is, I think a lot of people are sort of like afraid of change, and they're buying into this idea of like this is all about greed, this is all about money, and they're backstabbing the fans. Really think about this. This is going to be, we're going to have a competition that is essentially, it's going to be the greatest, if it goes through, it's going to be the greatest competition in sports history, at least professionally. Obviously, the World Cup is special. Even the European Championships, the Euros are special. But look, this is going to be a league with all the best clubs, all the best players in the world. It's going to have worldwide appeal. It's simply going to be the best professional football. It's going to be much better than the Premier League. Instead of six top clubs in the world, you're going to have 15 or 20. I mean, it's going to be a lot better than La Liga. It's going to be a lot better than the Liga, than the Bundesliga, than the Serie A. I mean, it's the only league this can really compare to. We can really compare this league to is the Champions League. And this is going to be a much more full-fledged league than the Champions League with a lot more matches. It's really going to feel like a league. The Champions League, it's more like every once in a while, they play, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like a true league, like a Premier League, that week in, week out, you're going to have great games. No, it's not the same thing. Now we're going to get the same thing, but instead of just the English clubs, we're going to have all the best clubs in Europe. Think about that as a fan. Is that not something that you would be interested in? Now, I have a lot of other points here, but I don't want to make this too long. But I will say, football is a global sport. And I think it makes sense that we should have a global league. As a fan, forget about the money. The money is important, obviously, and I think this is going to be a much, much better financial model. Keep in mind that most top clubs, even before the pandemic, lost money rather than make money. Now, it's a terrible financial model. Compare that to any of the American top leagues where they make money. I mean, these clubs, they're not just cultural sporting institutions. They're also companies. They're also businesses. They need to make some money. At least they shouldn't lose money every year. But let's put that aside. That's a very important aspect of it. But let's put that aside. Let's just think about the fans, about people like me that love football and want to see the best games. People who live all over the world and want to see the best football clubs play each other. Now, football has become a truly global sport. Truly a global sport. It's the only sport that has 4 billion fans in the world or so. All over the world. All continents. Doesn't it make sense that we have a truly global league? And this is not even going to be a global league. This is going to be only an European league. I think, in the future, they could even have some of the top South American clubs join, like in many years from now, if they could figure out the format. But, as it is, the top European clubs are going to be able to play each other week in, week out in one league. I mean, I think this is the best thing that we could hope for, really. And we get to keep the national leagues. I mean, I think this is a very compelling proposal for football fans. And one last thing that I want to say, a lot of these people criticizing the league, they're actually, Rio Ferdinand, Gary Neville, those are some of the ones that I heard speak. Look, these guys, they used to play for Manchester United. They made their career playing the Premier League. At the moment, things are great for English people. I mean, for English clubs, for English football in general. It's great. I mean, they have the best league in the world. every year there's a bigger gap between the Premier League and the rest of the leagues. There's also a bigger gap between the top 5 leagues in Europe and the smaller leagues. And I'm just thinking, I grew up in Portugal, supporting Sporting Lisbon. Look, Portuguese clubs, like Sporting, and even bigger clubs like arguably like Benfica and Porto, other big clubs in Europe like Ajax, Anderlecht, Celtic, Rangers. These like huge clubs that have won Champions League competition, the Champions League competition, or its predecessor in the past. They've won it in the past, but they cannot win it now. The only team in the last, since I started watching football, the only team that was able to win the Champions League that was not a part of the top 4 leagues in European football was Porto under Mourinho, and that was a long time ago. I think this is, they're not part of this Super League now, but I think that making a truly pan-European competition, I think it will allow these clubs from the smaller nations like the Netherlands, Scotland, Portugal, Belgium, even if you play nationally in a smaller league, you're still going to have the income from the Super League that will match your reputation, and your size, really, in terms of being an institution like Ajax, Benfica, Porto. So I think it's actually going to be more fair, and it's going to be more inclusive, because it's not just going to be, you're not going to have to be playing in the Premier League. It's not just going to be, the top teams are not just going to be English and, the very top teams in Spain or Italy or Germany. They're not going to be the only ones that will have a shot at being the best team in the world. And I think that's actually very positive to globalize the sport. In general, I think this is a very good proposal, and I think it's the future of the sport. I think we should accept it. I think we should try to think about the pros and cons in a way that makes sense, that is logical, instead of just being too afraid of change and resorting to nationalistic and populistic slogans, that really, they do not, I don't think that's the way to go. I think the way to go is, this is a global sport. Let's have the best global competition we can have. That should be the future of professional football. And I think that's going to be better for everybody. I think that's going to be better for the clubs, certainly better for the clubs, especially the top clubs that are at the moment losing lots of money. They need to have a better financial position. But honestly, more importantly, I mean, this is going to be better for the fans. We're going to have a lot more matches. We're going to have a lot more matches between the top teams. We're going to have a super exciting global competition with the best players in the world, the best clubs in the world. To me, I mean, it's really a no-brainer. It's just about doing it right. But I think, if we support this idea, I think it will be done right. So this is my opinion. I think somebody should bring forth these points instead of retreading the same negative points over and over again. So I wanted to make this video for you guys. Thank you.